Good evening, welcome to March's land use zoning public and private housing committee meeting. Got several items on the agenda tonight. Let's go ahead and my name is John Fout. I'm actually sitting in for Damaris Reyes, who's not feeling great. Let's go ahead and kick off the meeting with an approval of previous month's meeting and roll call.
I'll start from the roll call, and Damaris Reyes not here. And John Fout
Present.
Molly Liu present. And Alistair not okay. And Herman Huey. Michelle Cooper Smith present. Campbell Munn not here. And Rod Reminian
here.
Jalen here. Sandra not here. And Steve not here. Megan Troy not here.
I'm here, but I'm not gonna be participating because I'm the chair of the Lower East Side Kids Board.
I record Evan Robinson.
Steve.
Steve.
All right, thank you. All right, so we're gonna move on to our first agenda item, which is the second. Yeah. We're gonna wind up getting a report from our fellow, who is gonna be talking about her final draft presentation for policy analysis of the housing opportunities under the city of Yes in CB3. Let's welcome our fellow.
Great.
Presentation.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for having me, and I wonder where my presentation will be.
Aren't you going to share screen with it? Don't you have your presentation?
No, I do, but I sent it to Claire, so I didn't know.
Yeah, but no, if you could just share your screen with it. Can you do that or no?
Yes, I can. Just give me-
Okay. I'm sorry. Sorry, wasn't planned better.
Oh, I sent it late as well.
No, I know.
Just give me a sec. Let me make sure. Oh,
Okay.
If anyone wants to sign up to speak this evening, feel free to come on up. Sign on your speakerphone.
Well, we don't, oh, for here, yeah, online, don't have to raise it. Yeah.
You know, ladies, I'm not absent.
Yeah, I'm not too present.
I got you. That's it. I always notice Chris is better.
This campus over there. Just speaking back.
can everybody see the screen?
Yep.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. Okay. So today's that kind of my pre-final report of my final report. And I think those who were there in the previous meeting knew about the progress that I've made. And today I will be kind of sharing the basic structure of my report, which will be I'll be talking about the city of Yes, I'll be talking about the community profile, and then I'll be moving on to the problem statement, which starts here, which is that the CB3 residents are currently facing rising unaffordability, which is low incomes, small households in which the median household income is very low as opposed to what is provided by most affordable housing programs. The seniors are most vulnerable, and there's a severe rent burden in the district. And this is the the source of this is from the Pratt Center for Community Development Housing Needs Analysis, which was done in June 2025. And however, with these problems, the current landscape of affordable housing development is also not enough to address these issues. There's large NYCHA campuses that occupy significant land area, and also the inclusionary housing designated areas is along commercial corridors, limiting where new development can occur. And because of all this, affordable housing production in CB3 has been very minimal, and MAP also indicates that there is more of preservation projects than new construction. And putting these existing issues together with the city of Yes, we see that there is, sorry for the abundance of text here, but then we have both risks and opportunities. And I think I don't need to talk so much about the city of Yes or the existing issues, as the land use committee have been well aware of it. But what I want to focus for my project is um, the nonprofit developers aspect of it, because we have very trusted nonprofit developers in the district. And then the city of Yes provisions like the conversion, unused FARs, and parking reform do have a lot of potential to create new buildings, or mostly new units. And so what more and how is what I have been looking at. And uh so this is the research design that I've shared before, and I've kind of updated my question a bit from just saying affordable housing opportunities to more of how can CB3 engage with the policy to support affordable housing pathways in a district. And I tried to look at specific sites or development scenarios and recommendations for CB3 mostly, and also what nonprofit developers can do in this. And my deliverables are these two. So my main source has been from interviews with nonprofit developers mostly, and case studies, feedback from my cohort, and also whatever documents and research reports are publicly available. And this is kind of like the overall, like the main themes that have come up from the initial analysis, or more of like these are more of the final analysis. So it's mainly around nonprofit developers having issues like financing and financial issues, and the need for better funding and subsidies to layer with the city of Yes, and the um like the need for preservation strategies. So let's go to the main. So this is one of the the biggest challenges that nonprofits face, that there's inflation and high costs, but there's very low revenue from rent income, because they try to maintain deep affordability. And again, even if conversions aren't made possible by City of Yes, it's kind of difficult because it's mostly old building stock, and there's a mismatch or a difficulty in upgrading the plumbing or the wiring, and also lack of technical expertise due to the buildings being old. And therefore, there's a strong need for funding for mainly maintenance, in addition to the financing options that are available from different government programs. And so, and because nonprofit developers find it difficult to finance or to maintain this, it may be more uh this may become um for-profit speculative development again, and then it will exacerbate gentrification. And uh, so this is one important thing. I just put all these logos, which one of it has not come out, is the HPD, is that there's like different federal, state, and city agencies that developers deal with to get to finance affordable housing projects. And one issue is that the new 485X property tax program will likely skew towards 60 to 80% AMI, which we have seen in the previous pro project that was presented last meeting, because the district is medium to high density, which allows only small or moderate rental projects. And layering all these projects and dealing with different levels of government kind of is a complex process. And again, there's a lot of research that points to the fact that there is zoning and tax breaks are not enough and that need to be aligned with strong subsidies if we were to maintain affordability. And another one, which has been a very of interest to me, has been the preservation buying aspect, the preservation strategy aspect of it. The Neighborhood Pillars program of the HPD was renewed last year, and they are currently, when I go to their website, they're currently updating the list of qualified preservation buyers. So what they can do and have been doing is that they can acquire rent stabilized buildings before speculative investors. And this is crucial because as you have been living in a district, you know how landlords have been trying to deregulate units. And I'm bringing this because this has been a topic that a lot of the interviewees have talked about, and research also shows that it's much cheaper, the cost is more cost effective, and all, but again, it still requires more ways than just this Neighborhood Pillars program in order to do this. So this is more of the opportunities part of it, that Lower East Side and East Village area has more of air rights available, and the removal of parking restrictions would make it easier for conversions technically. And Chinatown and Two Bridges have more of these older loft buildings. And with City of Yes, the manufacturing G district is now possible to be converted into housing, and so local developers are working on using the City of Yes. And this is just a very rough map that I made to show the underbuilt parcels in the district. And again, as written here, it only represents potential redevelopment, and a lot of areas here, especially along the waters, already NYCHA campuses, so that is not as it's not the first option, or it's not even part of the City of Yes. And other places, as they have the landmark status, there are parks and schools. So I will come, like the final report will have more details of what and where and how the redevelopment could occur in these places. But I just wanted to show that there is possibility. Just it's just the financing part and the who develops part that needs to be taken into account more seriously. And another aspect of my study has been the case studies. Like the Minneapolis 2040 citywide zoning and the Massachusetts and Connecticut ADU legalization, they did show that allowing for more housing through zoning changes have increased housing construction and helped maintain affordable stock, and also kind of slowed rent price growth. But again, these are mostly it's kind of different from New York city, especially Minneapolis is more of a low density area. So city of Yes is still kind of unique and we don't have a lot of precedent, but then they do point to the fact that they're not deeply affordable on their own. It just allows more housing. It just not ensure affordability as much. Um, so these are my little recommendations that I want to put forth as of now. I'm sure if I do a little more study in this few weeks, I think I'll be able to come up with better recommendations. But I think one of the most feasible steps that CB3 can first do is to advocate for a budget increase, even though the city is kind of drowning in a fund crunch. Maybe the Neighborhood Pillars program could be a way to start with the preservation strategy. And also, City of Yes funds are very unclear where it's going. What I've heard is that it's mostly allocated for the flood resilience programs, the flood resilience areas. And so maybe if we can advocate for allocation of the funds for nonprofit developers with a focus on conversion, it might be a way. And dashboards have been kind of a thing among community boards, as far as I know from my cohort this year. So maybe if we can do this, it might create, if we can do a tracking system, publicly available tracking system, then it may help the community kind of understand what's going on and initiate whatever advocacy projects around this. And so the last one and like the more long-term one would be initiating a policy project or organizing community organizations in the district to do this for kind of a standardized tiers, affordability tiers across financing programs, so that nonprofit developers especially can have an easier process of application, and more than easy, as equal to easier process, like a quicker process, and also more an easier source of funding and financing. That is all I have for today. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. When do you think you will have your final report back to us?
After April 10th.
So maybe April's meeting and or May?
Yes.
We created a timeline. I don't remember what it was based on when she has to finish everything at school.
Right, okay. All right, well, I don't have any questions offhand. Does any members of the committee have any questions on the report? Any comments? Sure, Allison.
Hi, and thank you for the report. I guess I have two questions. One question is, why do nonprofit developers have a harder time obtaining financing compared to private developers? And the second question I have is, you mentioned that landlords are trying to deregulate apartments. Can you explain how they are trying to do that?
The first question was about nonprofits financing. I just want to clarify the question. I think I'll just want to go back to this. So I think more, I'm not sure, somebody can correct me, but from the interviews that I've had, I think it's more on the maintenance side that they struggle with, and that's where they need more, like stronger subsidies that will help them maintain their housing stock, is my main point. And
Have a completely heard and chime in.
I think for nonprofit, one of the bigger problems is they can't put as much equity into acquisition, so they can't act as quickly sometimes as for-profit developers. So they need to go to community development financial institutions to get the financing. You know, we did the projects we're doing on 12th Street, we got virtually 100% financing from the lenders to acquire the site from the Archdiocese, but you know, we actually beat out a lot of private developers in the process, but it may have been because they liked our project idea, it was more compelling, but I don't know that we offered the most money. I really don't know. Yeah, it wasn't shared with me what the final bids were, but I think we were competitive with price, but it took quite a while to get our financing together. So, but I think we had a seller that was willing to work with us. But most private landlords are not as eager to work with nonprofits who may take many months to get together the financing.
Well, it sounds like it was fortunate, actually.
Yeah.
But you permitted him to,
Thank you so much. I think that was Steve who answered for me.
yeah, Steve Herr, and
Yes, thank you so much. And to the second question about how landlords are trying to deregulate is what I've been told is how oh, it's in here where they try to um what's that word? Do something like redo the floors or change I think it just I'm not sure, but when they try to make changes to the apartment and then try to and then hold um use many I don't know how to put this. As like when they use different ways, so like I was told of once where a tenant was using was part of a long-term tenant was using um was paid their rent was being paid by the DREE program, but then the landlord was not willing to was not cashing her checks because um for a long time using whatever excuses and kind of forcing her to use the one stop payments from HRA, and then it just a very lengthy process, and then using that to kind of evict her. And then after that, um when they finally got to evict her, they did up the apartment and then changed increased the rent and then deregulated it. So it's just one of the examples that I'm giving you.
As far as I know, since 2019, when the rent rules changed, you cannot deregulate an apartment as such. So I would urge you to go back and check
Okay.
that source, because I do not want land to deregulate apartments.
And maybe I can clarify a little bit. Yeah, it's true that after in 2019, the new Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act ended vacancy control and deregulation, but a couple of years ago, they had to close a loophole of Frankenstein where landlords would reconfigure or combine apartments and create a new base rent. That loophole has also been closed as of like 2 years ago. But I think it's one issue that a lot of housing advocates are looking at around the city is we're still suspecting that there's illegal deregulation happening. Unless the tenant challenges it, we don't necessarily know. I mean, people are offered an apartment at a much higher rent than what the previous tenant paid. It's sort of on them to go, and check the rent history and find out if the rent is actually an illegal rent. So, I don't know that can't really say it's deregulated because everything that was rent stabilized is supposed to remain unstabilized, but there are a lot of deregulated units around the city at this point, especially in this neighborhood. So they're not subject to rent regulations anymore. They haven't been re-regulated.
Correct. So I think there are regulated units, but I don't think regulated units are becoming deregulated. And even with the Frankenstein apartments, they stay regulated at that time before the law changed. If you're combining apartments, you still have a regulated apartment. So just for terminology purposes, I'll be careful using that terminology for deregulation, because that's by law that can't happen at the moment. That doesn't mean there aren't deregulated apartments, but landlords are not deregulating apartments per se.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's really helpful.
Thank you, Allison. Anyone else have any other questions? We'll take questions from the public, I guess. Is there any members of the public who'd like to make a comment? So please raise your hand and speak for 2 minutes.
Nobody.
Hand raisers, no? No. All right, well, thank you very much. Again, we will look forward to hearing back from you whenever we do get the final report. And thanks, Alistair, for the update on that. That's great. All right, we're gonna move on to our next one, which is just an update on the review of the Esquire management contract. And Susan, I assume we're gonna hear from Megan first, is that correct? Or
Sounds that way. Oh, yeah. I wasn't. Sorry, I didn't know that I was gonna be, presenting that. This. But yeah, there's, I'm Meg Joy, by the way, and, well, a member of this committee, as you know, I haven't been here that much, I'm mostly doing SLA stuff. But I'm also the chair of the Lower East Side Bids Board, and Lower East Side Partnerships Board. And we, there's been a lot going on in the Essex market in the last few years, regarding operations and regarding, community engagement and events and that sort of thing. And we would kind of like a moment to get some feedback from the community in general, from the vendors, community stakeholders, the members of the community, on kind of what they'd like to see come out of the Essex market. It's an important community asset, and it's kind of one of the few spaces when we were going through the Essex Crossing Euler process that was set aside for community use. And you know, now we're losing the market line space to, you know, Burlington Coat Factory, which we never wanted big box down there. We feel, you know, all we have is this kind of upstairs level now for community use, and that feels like it's been kind of, you know, picked away a little bit by, you know, private events. And we just want to be able to take some time to kind of get some feedback from the community on what they all want. Regarding the RFP, there was plans for an RFP to go out on the partnerships. Or on the funding from EDC to for the community engagement sort of piece of this puzzle. And we just wanted to put a pause on that so that we can engage the community on this kind of feedback process. I think Tim might be able to speak to this too, he's on the call.
Yes, I see Tim there.
Yeah.
Tim, would you also like to provide some information?
Hey, good evening, everyone, and thanks, Meg. I think that was a good summary. I think that, you know, we have been talking about this at a committee level more recently since December. And I think at our last committee meeting, we talked about a draft resolution, which was pretty expansive, right? And it threw what I would call like the kitchen sink at anything and everything, positions taken over, you know, this period of 10 years. I think that there was some important stakeholder engagement and continued engagement at the market level. And, you know, as a result of that, I think that there seems to be a desire, because every day you kind of talk to somebody else, to really have a more broad-based engagement of all stakeholders. As Meg mentioned, you know, Essex Crossing in and of itself is not exactly making the commitments or hasn't been able to fulfill the commitments that we all had hoped they would during a lengthy process. Not to anyone's particular fault. There's a lot of factors, including, this worldwide pandemic that we all lived through that caused that. But right now, Essex Market provides the largest amount of community benefits to the Lower East Side and Chinatown community from Essex Crossing. Importantly, the work that we do that is funded by EDC serves low and moderate income residents, particularly seniors, and as well as adults and children, and a variety of different other nonprofit partners who offer programming from students over the summer in SYEP and other programming to Summer Rising, to developmentally disabled adults and children, to food distribution programs for area residents. All these things are really kind of part of the work that we do for Essex Market. Vendors at the market are important components of any public market, right? They're really important stakeholders, but they are one stakeholder of many. And when we talk about a public market, it's really making sure that we are recognizing there are many users and many outcomes. And so I think that, as Meg mentioned, the request here is to take a pause, see if we can extend everything that we're doing now, and then permit what is a broad-based engagement. We've made a request of EDC to potentially consider funding that. I think the community board reinforcing that request for engagement and for potential redistribution of funds that were otherwise used for private events would be very helpful as we engage everybody. I think this has to be a partnership between the community board, the bid, EDC vendors, and really kind of a broad subset of Lower East Side and Chinatown stakeholders who use the market every day. And importantly, that being low and moderate income residents, some of whom have language barriers. So another reason really to make sure that we're engaging everyone and doing so in a way where they're feeling comfortable to come forward and really say what they think and have multiple opportunities for input. We think that would be, really the best course of action and next steps for the market and for the community board.
Just maybe to make it clear, can you speak on what the RFP is? Something new, right? Can you maybe talk about the history there and give us a better understanding about it?
So I think there's two pieces of a puzzle. The RFP is something new. It was, I think there's two components to it. One, we've had we've had funding agreements, we've had consulting contracts, but since really the inception of the Markets Move in 2015, we've provided community benefit services. Obviously, those have expanded greatly over time. There was a desire to issue an RFP on EDC's part, just because it was a longer procurement. There were some kind of changes in their procurement outlooks. And so they had come and they said, let's talk about that RFP. They started talking about that in December. And really the question was like, where does the community want to have input? And so one of the challenges that we saw with the RFP and that we continue to believe is missing is really kind of that vision for what's next. And so without engaging users of the market, vendors of the market, customers of the market, people who are coming to the market just as a public space in the Lower East Side, and knowing exactly what they want, it's hard to construct an RFP for community benefit services. And so that's really the request for us to pause that RFP. It hasn't been issued yet, but our contract concludes on June 30th. So we've asked for an extension while we hope to work collaboratively to figure this out in the interest of providing community benefit services and not abruptly stopping those on June 30th at the end of the fiscal year.
Right, now I think that sounds actually really important. I mean, I think what we've always done on this board, obviously, is kind of insisted on having a voice here and hearing from the entire committee, which is one of the reasons why we're actually here. And we didn't pass the resolution last month because we wanted to actually get more information from more people, including the vendors here in this case. I mean, I was a vendor in a food hall, so I understand. Totally. So at this time, I guess I would like to just turn over to other members of the committee who would like to ask any questions. Anyone have any questions for Tim or Megan? Yeah, sure.
Megan, thank you for putting this together. I have a question about the resolutions. I think I'm not clear on what exactly the product is or what the outcome of the community-based visioning process is. Is there a way to make the language more clear that you want like a strategic plan, something more actionable? Because I think a visioning process sounds more like making a word cloud and not anything more tangible or have any teeth into it. So I'm wondering if there's a strategic plan that you want to call this or something like that.
I like the language of strategic. What do you think, Tim?
I would agree that that is a visioning process is an ambiguous term. And as always, I think that's a great suggestion. I think the visioning process should inform a strategic direction, a mission for the market, and ultimately kind of a master plan about next steps. So really that's the whole purpose of getting that broad base of input so that you can get everybody on the same page. Frankly, in this case, including EDC, right? EDC has looked at the market in a variety of different ways, but right now, and has been traditional as just an asset that they have to manage as part of the asset management portfolio. And so I think that really kind of having a strategic direction and a strategic plan that everyone is coalescing around and everyone has reached consensus upon will allow for a better alignment and strategic investment and hopefully better benefits for the community. So I think that's a great suggestion to add language like that.
So I think perfect. So I think just making another further be resolved, I think if we just want to clear it up that the product of the third party consultant would be a 5-year strategic plan with actions. I guess a strategic plan is the product, but if you want to make it clear that it's like for the 5 years. And that's what the outcome of the visioning process would be. I mean, I do think questions.
Well, I don't think we might address the rest, right?
Are we not passing this tonight?
No, I think we are, but I don't know if we've seen it or,
We're trying to put it on the
We
screen.
had,
yeah, let's see.
There we go. Someone has their hand raised also.
Sure.
It's Eric Diaz.
Awesome.
Oh. Okay, I've allowed him to talk.
You want her to talk?
Well, he has his hand raised whenever you want to call on him, but it's up to you.
Sure, and I'll, Eric, you'd like to speak?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi, my question was in the Q&A was, is the market line downstairs, is that what this part of this process is involving, is community input on what's happening from the basement all the way up to the top of the Essex Market, which is the mezzanine level? Just clarification.
No.
Want to take that? No, it's more of, no, like unfortunately, a lot of that is out of our hands, even though we worked so long and hard, through that healer process to put in provisions to avoid big box stores. It's more to create a, thank you, strategic plan for the Essex Street Market. Like as Tim said, it seems like EDC just views this as an asset, looks at bottom line financials, you know, can this market make money or not make money? The community board is really there to say like, this is a community asset, that's, I mean, the events that we have there as far as, you know, giving cooking classes to local residents, to, you know, the Halloween event that we have there that literally thousands of people come to, the holiday event that we had. There's a lot, it's just, there's no like mission statement for the market, there's no just goals, and it doesn't seem like EDC is moving in that direction. And this is our market, and I think we need community input on how this market is gonna be used and where it's gonna go going forward. Because things are a little bit shaky right now in the market, and it could be a lot better than it is. We just want to plan on how that's gonna happen.
I would just add on the specific piece about the market line. So, you know, important to remember that in the beginning of the project, the market line was supposed to be 3 different blocks. It ended up only being one. The one that did operate was beneath the Essex Market, and then that closed. There was a decision made by the city during the development process to build the Essex Market and the market line together. So all the facilities, systems, elevators, back of house, HVAC, electrical, loading docks, all of it's built as one unit. And so now the developers have requested an EDC approved in late December prior to the Mamdani administration beginning. A lease negotiation to proceed. That lease isn't done, it's just being negotiated. But the question is, how do you kind of break apart those two facilities? What do you do with the hole where the stairs used to be? Like, how is that space going to provide community benefit? What are you doing about the bathrooms that were lost as a result of the market line? What are you doing about the loss in public seating? When we talk about indoor public space, Essex Market's mezzanine is one of the, the most publicly available community spaces with public restrooms. And so limiting that and, how we use that and what that vision for that is really important, especially if the space beneath the market is to go to a big box store. So that's really kind of a conversation altogether. I know the community board has been pretty adamant in their position about EDC looking at that differently, including, sending a letter to the mayor, the new mayor, Mayor Mamdani, saying, hey, could you revisit this decision? It's probably worthwhile. So all those things coming together, I think just only reinforce the need for, what is that vision? Some people see Essex Market as part of a public markets network at EDC. We see Essex Market as the cornerstone of transformative development that this community fought for years. And to get to that point, for those of us that were all kind of part of it, it took a long time and it took a lot of people coming together, and really kind of the same process that we went through to get to the Spur RFP, to get to Essex Crossing, is something that we could emulate now and bring stakeholders together so that we can really kind of repivot this important community asset so it can benefit generations of Lower East Side and Chinatown residents for many years to come.
100% agreed. Yeah. Thank you.
Certainly. No, I totally agree also. I mean, obviously, since this is something new, I think we definitely need to weigh in on this for sure. Any other comments from the committee? Do we want to, Susan, maybe read the resolution so the public can hear as well, or?
Sure, I mean, they could see it,
They can see it
yeah,
on
you could, I guess it's a good idea to read it too.
I have a question. I guess for this last further be resolved, I just don't know what it means. That NYC EDC pause creation or release of requests for proposals for services seeking to modify the market's physical layout to appreciate the market line's closure as outlined above. I don't know what that means.
I think that you could word that differently, but really, it is meant to say that, if the city is to close the market line, they should, or if the city is to agree that the market line is closed and it will become a Burlington Coat Factory and it's going to revert back, right? All these things are going to happen. The stairway is going to get closed. The elevator is going to be modified. That we have a process to talk about community benefits, and have a process where you can have stakeholder input before you start issuing proposals for construction and design, and you build something and ultimately you're like, oh, I wish I had built something else to fix that problem of kind of severing that space and making the Essex Market independent from the other parts of the space, in order to provide community benefit. One example is that huge staircase that goes down to the market line. Well, it'd be great to keep it and keep some space at the bottom of that staircase. If you have to deck it over, what are you going to put there? Is that going to be additional space for public amenities? Is it going to provide programming to drive foot traffic and support vendors? What's that going to look like? Additionally, once you close that space, like you have now operationally, how many restrooms are there that are available to the public? How many restrooms are there that are available to the employees and to the vendors themselves? Like, are there ways and other things that need to happen in the facility as a result of making that final determination that it's severed, and doing so only after you've completed a strategic kind of review, and determined a direction.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I think we can help with editing that, so it said that more clearly. It makes more sense after you describe it.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to hear from Susan.
I agree, I think it's kind of awkward and not very clear at all, and I'm wondering if we could make it just a lot shorter and say, seeking to modify physical layout and gather community input.
NYC EDC pause creation or release of request for proposals that will modify the market's physical layout.
and what, I forget what I said. And receive input from the community.
Okay. Until, right, until.
You could
Could it
just
say,
leave it there.
could it say until a strategic plan
Yes.
is created?
Yes.
Because I don't know when consensus is reached officially.
That sounds good, Steve.
In case. I don't know, we'll actually reach consensus as opposed to majority vote.
Then I have language for the other resolution, if you wanna add it. Like that,
One of the,
we're adding one to make it a strategic plan.
Yeah.
There's no work product in this,
Right.
you wanna do a second resolution?
or a section.
No, that was
There's a paragraph between.
Oh, just a
Between the one
paragraph.
above and
Yeah,
that.
Oh, there.
So I think after the community visioning process, the right above this one. We can fix that other one later. Right after, no. Right after this one. Further be resolved that the third party consultant. Will conduct a robust. And inclusive. Community engagement process,
Robust and inclusive.
ROBUST.
Sorry.
ROBUST.
Inclusive. Community engagement process. To produce a 5-year strategic plan. With a defined vision. Vision. Mission mission. Oh, you can put a comma, vision, comma, mission, comma. Goals. Comma, and actions.
Strategic instead of strategies.
Right,
Yeah.
strategic.
Oh, sorry, I'll stop.
And no S.
No S.
And then that here too. Until strategic plan is adopted. Does a plan like this need to go through any like legislative like approval?
There's not. I mean, we're kind of creating this idea, so it's not a plan that is going to go through a process that we're all aware of. I think we're asking for input and to create a plan. And then I'm assuming that would come back to the community board to vote on, so I would assume that.
Okay.
Because we want the community board is for the community to have voice in planning, so that would make sense that they would then come bring the plan back to us.
Like, I just didn't know how, a plan like this would have any like teeth in it where it is actionable.
But sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, and we have to work hard as hard as we can to make it work.
Okay.
Susan, can I just add that, there are ways that the community board can add, actionable things via amendments to local laws, et cetera, but I think you really need that strategic plan first. Also, just I'm reading these edits to the, one about space, that further be it resolved. It says pause creation or release of requests for proposals. I think that, you could get rid of creation or release of requests for proposals and just say, the NEC will pause modifications to the market's physical layout, because that would encompass an RFP. You don't want them to Yeah, I'm just not sure if there's like a procurement. So if the goal of this section is to say hold tight for changes to the physical layout of the market until a community process can be underway, maybe it's just easier to say that and it's shorter. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
There's certainly reasonable. And yeah, I think we certainly should read so the public can actually hear it. Because I don't know if they can see all of it at once. I'm happy to read it unless someone loves reading.
I can do that. Do I read from the top?
Yeah, it's from the top, reading everything.
Whereas Community Board 3 has consistently requested responsive and community-focused operations of Essex Market since and throughout the planning process for Essex Crossing and the Seward Park Urban Renewal Area SPURA sites in general. Whereas Community Board 3 has strongly objected to NYCEDC's determination that Delancey Street Associates should be permitted to lease the former market line space to a big box use against the intent of the SPURA land use approval framework. Whereas prior resolution proposing creative alternatives to the closure of the market line before and after they permitted a lease arrangement to proceed toward finalization between Delancey Street Associates and Burlington Coat Factory did not receive a response. Whereas NYCEDC has generously provided direct support funding for community benefit services since 2015. And the combined amount for the current fiscal year supporting Essex Market equates to approximately $495,000. Whereas NYCEDC has not previously required or issued a request for proposals RFP or any other procurement for support services at Essex Market as they relate to provision of community benefit services not otherwise easily provided or explicitly authorized by local law. Whereas Community Board 3 has maintained that Essex Market should serve the Lower East Side Chinatown community and not be utilized by NYCEDC or the city for purposes that do not support the community or unnecessarily support other markets managed by NYCEDC at the expense of and with impact on Essex Market. Whereas Essex Market provides a crucial service to low to moderate income Lower East Side Chinatown residents and supports a diverse vendor community, many of whom are immigrant and entrepreneurs who provide access to quality and fresh produce and grocery goods and are locally based employers. Therefore, be it resolved that Community Board 3 believes that NYCEDC should commit to maintaining no less than the level of funding in the current fiscal year for the Lower East Side Partnership to provide community benefit services and replace services focused on private events or those focused on vendor supports and community benefits through renewed funding in fiscal year 27. Further, be it resolved that the ongoing mission and strategic direction of the market be determined following broad engagement of Lower East Side Chinatown stakeholders through a community-based visioning process, utilizing an experienced third-party consultant retained by the Lower East Side Partnership and jointly selected with NYCEDC, Community Board 3, local elected officials, and representatives of market vendors. Further, be it resolved that NYCEDC permits funds that would have been otherwise targeted toward private events to support such a community-based visioning process. Further, be it resolved that the third-party consultant will conduct a robust and inclusive engagement process to produce a 5-year strategic plan with a defined vision, mission, goals, and actions. Further, be resolved that NYCEDC pause modification to the market's physical layout and receive input from the community until strategic plan is adopted. Further, be it resolved that NYCEDC commits to the meaningful involvement of Community Board 3 and elected officials via the Essex Crossing Task Force and oversight of the operations of Essex Market. Further, be it resolved that NYCEDC commits to the meaningful involvement of Community Board 3. Oh, did I speak now?
Yeah, I think it's a duplicate.
It is a duplicate. Okay, that NYCEDC commits to the meaningful involvement of Community Board 3 and elected officials via the Essex Crossing Task Force and oversight of the operations of Essex Market. Further, be it resolved that NYCEDC ensures the market, its public spaces and offices, and its overall operations create a clean, safe, and welcoming environment free of fear, intimidation, or retaliatory behavior.
Okay, and now that we started on the resolution, I just, can we go back for a second? I want to get, we have one person who wanted to speak. And see if any of those from the public want to speak, then we'll go back to have some discussion. Gary, did you wanna, yes, we can get 2 minutes, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Gary Garnello, Alice Records. I'm also on the board, the OSP. I'm a vendor in Essex Market, and just as such, I just wanted to echo a lot of what was already said. Firsthand, I get to see a lot of the community services which OSP provides, in the market for the community. I see the people who benefit from that daily, and businesses benefit in a big way from these events, which Sam named, which occurred weekly. Additionally, from the vendor perspective, and I'm in no way authorized to speak for the collective vendors, but I do speak to many of them. And I can say that I believe we would benefit from a pause, just to acquaint ourselves better with a lot of what's going on with this. And I say that because we're holding our Essex Street Market Vendor Association elections early next month. And after doing so with our leadership, sort of intact, it will be much easier to wrangle a consensus between vendors. And it would be easier for us to be a part of this conversation in a more effective way. And I think that's something a lot of the vendors would appreciate. And it would just seemingly make the whole thing go a lot more smoothly.
Perfect, great, now, thank you, that makes a lot of sense, obviously, we're happy to hear from more people. And where there's any, and is there anybody from the public who would wish to speak on this, give their opinion? If so, raise your hand. No one on Zoom. No one on Zoom? Okay, very good. Michelle, you had a comment?
Yeah, just one edit, but. Just one small edit, in the whereas clause that shall be prior resolutions proposing creative alternatives.
Scroll slightly.
Yeah, there you go. Where it says they committed a lease arrangement, it should say lease. Committed a lease arrangement. Better, right?
Good clarification.
Yeah, I think that's it, thank you.
Right, do we have any other comments from the committee on this? Any other suggestions? No? Would anybody like to make a suggestion here? Action?
Let me just move to adopt this resolution.
Second? All right, we can have a vote.
Well, we will have, this motion is to adopt this resolution. And the Mary Reyes, not here. John Falk,
Yes.
Molly, yes, Alice.
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Michelle. Yes. Campbell. Rob. Yes. Jamie, yes. Sandra, and Steven.
Yes.
Yes, and Megan's, not voting.
Yeah, because I'm not voting. Because my position on the voting side.
Actually, should I present that vote? Cause I'm on the bid steering committee. Steering committee.
Should also be present now.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I'm present that one. I'm not on the bid board, but on the bid expansion steering committee, not as a CD3 member, but I'll vote president.
Still unanimous.
Yeah.
All right, so that carries, and again, I want to thank obviously people from, bid for coming and working with us on this topic and trying to forge a way forward. It gets as much community support behind this and move forward, and hopefully we'll hear from EDC from us.
Thank you.
Cheers. All right, we're gonna make a slight change here. We're not gonna do the review of the preliminary budget, because we don't have any information yet from the administration, right? Is that correct, Susan? So,
More or less, but, if I could introduce the term limit thing.
sure, yeah.
Okay, so, Claire, who's Assistant District Manager, is on Zoom, ready to present a document. But at the last meet, we've been preparing in every committee, for term limits, meaning that we're losing a tremendous amount of expertise and institutional knowledge next year, when term limits kick in. And committees are looking at different ways to document or prepare for term limiting. One committee chair has already made up a budget timeline, which was reviewed in this committee, which gives the timeline for our budget, district needs and priorities. And at the last meeting, Damaris asked for suggestions from the committee by a certain date, and there wasn't a single suggestion. So Claire has been working on a document of land use actions that will be coming to CB3 and some bulleted point explanations of how they're treated in the community board. Catherine is also from city planning, has been very helpful in reviewing this for us. So Claire, I think, is gonna share her screen and go over the documents she prepared and take questions and comments.
Sounds good. Take it away, Claire.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm not there in person, feeling kind of under the weather today. Thank you, Susan. As she said, I've been putting together this land use action review procedures document. So I'll just take a couple minutes to go over some of the land use actions that I have in here that come through this committee, starting
Make it a little larger, maybe.
larger.
Yeah, if you can.
Sorry, is that good?
There you go.
Okay. So starting with ULURP, this covers a large range of actions that come to the committee: rezoning, special permits, changes to the city map, disposition or acquisition of city-owned property, site selections for capital projects, along with a few others here. So a bit on the timing. Before an application is officially certified, meaning before the clock officially starts, we typically request a briefing from the applicant. This gives us time to ask questions and flag concerns early on in the process, before we're in that formal 60-day window. And once the application is certified, we have 60 days to vote at the committee. This process starts 9 days after the certification itself. And during that period, we're required to hold a public hearing, which is notified in the city record and gives anyone who wants to speak a chance to speak. A quorum of 20% of the full board must be present. And this is actually one of the few times non-committee members can vote alongside the committee. The committee can vote at the public hearing itself or at a separate committee afterwards. And the result is a resolution that then goes to the full board vote, and CB3 staff submits the outcome, which is approve with conditions, disapprove, or disapprove with conditions, and that goes in the city planning portal. And then moving on to ELURP, which is a new process launched by the new administration. It's expedited land use review procedure, and essentially applies to a specific narrower set of actions tied to policy priorities, such as affordable housing, resiliency, open space. The types of action that qualify include modest rezoning, specifically ones that increase residential floor area by no more than 30%. Also certain changes to the city map, like raising street grade for flood resiliency or facilitating affordable housing. select HPD property dispositions and acquisitions for affordable housing, and dispositions through DCAS Sail Away program, which is for slivers and access way lots, solar panel leases on public land, and certain site selections for resiliency and open space projects. So our process under ELRP is the same as a ULRP. The key difference is the timing. So under a regular ULRP, the borough president review happens after the community board reviews, and under ELRP, the borough president reviews at the same time. So essentially the timeline is compressed, but our role and our 60-day window are the same. And then next I have non-ULRP land actions. As we know, not everything that comes to us goes through ULRP. Zoning text amendments changes the actual text of the NYC zoning resolution. And we schedule them on our agenda for a pre and post certification and submit a resolution the same way. The timeline is usually 45 to 60 days, depending on the project. And then there are actions that don't formally require a review, but we still have a role, such as universal affordability preference, which allows developers in higher density residential districts to build more floor area if the extra units are permanently affordable. And developers are required to notify us, but they're not required to present. However, we can request an informal presentation. Authorizations and modifications. These are actions the City Planning Commission handles. They typically refer them to us for a 45-day review period before they vote. Authorizations cover things like bulk modifications tied to landmarks or transit improvements. Modifications apply to certain changes to prior special permits. And finally, as of right projects, these are projects that are already permitted under existing zoning, but they don't require our formal review. But applicants sometimes come to us voluntarily, and we can choose to pass a resolution of support if we would like to. The resolution doesn't have legal weight, and it can be mostly, it's just useful for the applicant in demonstrating community backing. So that's everything I came up with. If there are any changes or additions, I believe Catherine is also in the room from City Planning, who has been very helpful in this process. Go back to the top here.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, that sounds great. I don't have any questions or comments. Anyone from the committee?
I have a question. Thank you for putting this together. I think I'm just confused on the wording of the certification phase. If we just scroll down a little bit,
Can you scroll down a little, Claire?
I think it's,
To which one? Sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing.
no, sorry, I think for me, I'm just confused by the first bullet under certification and community board review. CB has 60 days from certification to vote on a ULRP beginning 9 days after the application is certified. I guess like the double certification.
City planning words.
Yeah.
City planning like
It
that.
sounds like you can't certify until it's certified. Is
No, it's certified, but then the time period doesn't start for 9 days.
okay.
Is
That's
that correct?
okay. That was I guess I just was confused there. And then if you go up, it says the bullet right there. CB3 generally requests 3 readings on proposed. Is how is CB3 informed?
Oh, first of all, we work really closely with all the agencies. And there's also a portal, an excellent portal. City planning has the best interagency portal in the city. And so anybody can look at it. We have a different view,
Okay.
but it has all the upcoming. So we keep an eye on it,
Okay.
but we keep in close touch. Every time we see something, we have emails back and forth. Occasionally, applicants will actually reach out to us. We really like it when they do, but they don't have to, and they generally don't, but we watch it. It's one of the things we do in the office. is
Okay, so
watch
you
that
watch
very-
it, okay.
Watch it very carefully and work with city planning and also work very closely with the chair of the committee.
DCP is New York City's smartest.
Pardon?
DCP is New York City's smartest. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna say DCP is the only agency that asks the community boards for input on every phase as that they were creating the portal so that it worked for everyone. And it really is a good thing to ask for input.
Thank you.
Great. Do we have any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, it's a slightly off topic question. Susan, is there a list somewhere of when the term limits, everyone's term limits are coming?
Yeah, we will have the information, first of all, we have information that we will give at the full board, we have language. It starts next year and borough president is working on the specific list for everyone. But I think that's all we should say for now. Only because it's land use committee.
Yeah, it's not our purview here. Really, it's not that makes sense. So any other comments or questions? We aren't taking any actions here, obviously.
And for planning for the term limits, well, the action is, we have now on our website put under member resources, created a folder for each committee. And any documents that the committee wants for term limiting will be captured there. They can, continue to be worked on, but we don't want to lose what we have. This committee hasn't created anything. So we will put on the budget timeline that's already been created. And we will probably refine this a little bit more and put this document on. And I'd say within the next few months, if people have any suggestions or anything else that they would like to discuss putting on, we can put this back on the agenda, but we won't put it back on the agenda unless, someone requests it.
Discussions, yeah, and that would be great. And obviously, we do have a lot of people who've been around for a long time, so it would be great if there were things put forward. So, just kind of put your thinking caps on and if there's something you'd like to, make sure is institutionalized. For further review. And that's it. We probably have nothing else. If somebody would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I have a question.
Oh, you have a question?
Yeah. I just have a question about the scheduling for these meetings, because the past 2 months they've been on like totally random nights. Do you know why that's happening?
Yeah, I think we have to discuss it with the chair and I doubt if you're prepared, right?
No.
Well, why? It was with the mayor's, so I think it's something that should be discussed with the mayor's.
Yeah, it has been kind of.
Yeah, I just asked, like, at the very least, like, cause I've been on the board for almost 7 years now, and there's always been like a pretty firm schedule when each committee meets, and like, it's been just totally random the past 2 months for this committee, and makes it difficult for us that are otherwise
Schedule,
engaged,
right,
and like,
yes.
at the very least, like, I know Zach finds out like 45 days before the meetings, but we regular members find out like a week, so.
The one thing I can tell you, you're on the transportation committee in April, that's gonna be on Wednesday, because that's when we could get a very large space.
Okay. Yeah, I understand there's things that change, but it just really, the members.
Last month, it was Lunar New Year Eve, when we don't schedule meetings on that.
Yeah, that was really possible.
We cut down greatly, we cut down a number of holidays that we don't have to.
Okay, great. All right, any other questions or comments from the committee? But it'd be great if people did some homework and make some suggestions, otherwise I'd prefer a suggestion to adjourn.
It's roll call.
Then make a roll call vote.
Maris? No. John?
Present?
Is this also close?
Yeah, closing.
Molly here. Alistair?
Here.
Herman?
Here.
Michelle?
President Chris Campbell. Ralph,
Yeah.
Jimmy. Sandra.
Yeah.
Did I record the ads?
No. It's like absent or present, no.
I guess,
Present for the meeting.
yeah, I guess present. Yeah,
You're present, right?
We're making you present, we're making you present, but
Present
present
here
here.
in Berlin. President.
Well,
Okay, we're done?
I'm open to the idea of it. Yeah, I've no problem.